How you doing, YouTube? It's Wolf Mill Development. It's my 399th weekly update. Did miss a couple weeks there. I don't think they were consecutive, but I don't remember now. Got back on track last week, and we are once again continuing down the track this week. Next week's going to be a little goofy. I'll do what I can, but I am going to be traveling out of state, actually, all the way up to New Hampshire. There's no guarantee that I will be. In fact, I know I'm not going to bring my laptop or any of my cameras or anything like that because I just don't want to risk any of it getting broken while I'm out there, and I just can't afford the extra cost right now, and I just don't. I don't feel like dealing with all that stuff. So I will have my phone. Probably just shoot me a little front-facing camera update. It's going to be a weird week next week because I'm leaving Thursday. So I am going to be missing training on Thursday, possibly Friday. I believe the show starts on Friday, and I think it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which means I will be needed to be at my booth while I'm up there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we'll see what happens. You know, maybe I'll have some energy after the show to get some training in. There's no guarantee. I don't know what my food's going to look like, any of it. You know, it's not impossible to stay on track on trips like this, but it's way out of my element. I think it's the third or fourth time I've been above the Mason-Dixon. And it's sort of a little bit of a vacation anyway. So it's one of those things. We'll play everything by ear, but I'm going to try to stay as on track as possible throughout the weekend, especially since the Scorcher is so close, and actually my weight's been doing really well as my strength, which I will actually talk about this week. Really been much more on top of the diet this week, especially since I've been feeling better again. You can probably hear that I'm not as nasally. Still have a little bit of a cough and a little bit of drainage from the nose, but it's kind of going back to normal. I can actually hear out of both ears now. It feels normally and smell everything normally, so that's exciting. Because I actually, you know, like every human, I actually really like food. You know, I was actually going to be a chef at one point in my life. I love food so much, so not being able to taste food is, it takes away a part of me. You know what I mean? So diet's been going really well, and body weight's been averaging right at 185, which is right where I want to be. I only want to do about a 10-pound cut, and I honestly feel like I can be strong enough at 185, even at 190. They're the same. That 5 pounds, I don't really notice it in terms of performance. In fact, being that little bit lighter might make me just a little bit faster. And then only having to cut 10 pounds. I don't mind cutting 10 pounds. 10 pounds isn't that bad. Cutting that 15, even that's doable. It's not fun, but it's doable. But I tell you, cutting 20, you know, if I was walking around at 195, that would be really rough. So, been really good about the diet. Been averaging 185 this whole week. And actually feeling good, feeling nice and satiated. Not very hungry, and performance has been going very well, as you know, to couple with that. This was a kind of a mini deload week. Backed things off a little bit, kind of bumped up the volume a touch on a few of the things, and then kind of brought it down on a few others while keeping the intensity still low. And just doing some sort of technique work on a couple things. This is the first week we've started to train the actual silver dollar deadlift, which will be for max weight at the show. And it's challenging because we don't have an actual silver dollar deadlift attachment. So we were sort of figuring it out on Thursday how we were going to do it, and we, you know, basically what we came up with was putting the standard deadlift bar on a bunch of bumper plates to get it up to around 18 inches. And then we put the actual weight, we used hundreds, and put that about 4 inches from the edge of the sleeve from the inside, give or take. Maybe it was more like 5 or 6 inches, but put hundreds there and then stacked shorter 45s as much as we could out. And then we even went so far as to put some bands on it just to really try to add to the bend or make it even more challenging as we could. It's definitely a learning experience. We know a few things to do a little different next week to maybe make the setup a little more stable. Pulling off bumper plates is just... It's a little ridiculous, I'm not going to lie. Just because they're not really made for that, and there's no way to set the plates exactly in the same spot every time. So trying to do anything over 3 or 4 reps is very challenging, especially with that kind of a lift, which I've never actually done in a comp. Well, actually, I've never really trained it. The closest I've trained is maybe some rack pulls at one point in my life. But generally, my lockout's really good, so I don't do a lot of rack pulls. They just don't really benefit me that much. Lockout's usually not my issue. As long as I can get it past my knees, normally I can lock whatever it is out. Which makes me kind of a shoo-in to be pretty good at this silver dollar deadlift, because 18 inches puts it basically right at my knees, which means all I have to do is get that tension in the bar, bend it over my knees essentially due to the weight on the bar, and then just stand up, which is, it feels very similar to a car deadlift in a lot of ways, which I'm pretty good at that event, depending on the weight and the criteria of the implement itself. Each one's a little bit different. So yeah, working on the silver dollar deadlift. Dumbbell press has been going great, which I'm very happy for. Last week was okay. This week was just incredible. This is one of those movements I was talking about where we really ramped up the intensity but kept the volume pretty low. So it was around a 90-95% day for us with some singles, just so we could kind of get an idea of what comp weight's going to feel like. And neither one of us had ever touched our comp weight. I do have experience with the one for the show because I zeroed it last year, which it's looking really good that I'm not going to zero it this year, because using our dumbbell, I believe, is a little more challenging because it's shorter and smaller. Each one's a little different. I think the handle's a little bit smaller on ours too, which might be a benefit, might not be. It's tough to say. But hit a massive PR. When I was first running the events for the show, I wanted to sort of see where I was, and hit 110 on the first day, which was a PR for me. I'd never hit 110. The closest I ever got was like 105. So I hit 110, and that was cool. And then just today I was hitting 115, which is another PR for 2 singles. And I said, it's supposed to be 90 to 95. Let me try to hit the 120, which is about 95%-ish. It's about 2.5 pounds from 95% of comp weight, which is 130. And went at it one time, missed it, and then immediately just ran back in, went for it, and just boom, it went up. It felt easier than either of the 115s felt. So that was super exciting. So that's definitely a new PR for me on the Circus dumbbell, and especially being at this body weight, 186, 185-ish, I feel like I know it's 10 pounds off my weigh-in comp weight, but it's so close in my mind. I could drop 10 pounds in about 3 days if I had to, especially as I'm nice and hydrated. So if I just stopped drinking water for 2 days and then sweat it out 3 or 4 pounds, I'd be there in 3 days. So that's a super simple cut for me at this point in my career, if you want to call it that. So I feel like, man, if I'm that close right now, this is basically how I'm going to feel during the comp. I feel like day of, I've still got about a month. I think it's either a month or it's even 5 weeks to get even better at this event and more efficient, and so it's really looking good that I'm actually going to not zero this event at all, which would be great. It would be even nicer if I can hit more than 1 rep. I get a feeling if some of the other lightweights that I know might show up, I probably won't win the event, just because there's some really good dumbbell pressers in the lightweight men's. If they do end up showing up, it's tough to say. One of the only ones I know about who might do it, who is a lightweight, might actually go to the 200s because he's that much better. So he might just go play in the 200s just because the weights are heavier and it'll be easier. It'll be more fun for him because the weights are heavier, basically. But if he does end up in the 175s and the lightweight men, it's going to be challenging because my sort of plan going into that event is to hit a rep and then drop it on the tire in front of me. Some of these guys are so good that they're going to be able to hit it, come back down, touch it, and just, re-clean it and make it really fast. So mine won't be fast. It'll be like I'm doing a single each time, probably, which might not be the most efficient way to do it, but I know if I try to carry that back down, tap it, and do it again, it's probably not going to happen. So, I'm just going to try to do my best. Like I said, I've got plenty of time. The movement's getting easier and easier every time I do it. I feel like the programming on it's really good right now for me, so I feel like I'm in a good place to continue to get stronger at this particular movement and actually do really well with it. Deloaded yoke a lot this week, dropped to like 70%, and did a few runs with 70%, just to continue to keep my speed up. And yeah, I think I was averaging around 7 seconds, 50-foot runs, which is good. If I could do that with comp weight, I would honestly be close to one of the best, if not the best in the state. Unfortunately, that probably won't happen. When I've gotten up in the 80s, I think we've touched 80% in the last few weeks, at least for one run. I believe one of my runs I was able to, I think I averaged around 12 to 13 seconds, which is not bad. I would really like 10-second run. That would be great. Day of, so I'm hoping with the deload and everything, it'll be there. We'll see. This is still one of those weeks, and I've done enough comps to the point where I'm not insane, but this is not crunch time just yet. We've still got a little bit of time to get a little bit stronger. I think we've got about 6 weeks, I think. So I'm like, yeah, this isn't quite crunch time. We can still make a mistake and recover from it and have sort of time to fix any mistakes and still get a little bit stronger in that time. Once you're at that 4 week, and especially 3 week, I would say most people would agree at 4 weeks. It's really tough to get stronger in those 4 weeks. You're really probably not building much strength in those 4 weeks. When you're 4 weeks out, that is. You're really trying to just dial in that technique and get used to the extra weight. Your base strength probably isn't going up much in 4 weeks. So with that in mind, I feel like I've still got at least 2 weeks to get the base strength a little bit higher and then peak for the show and go from there. So yeah, definitely a good week. Hopefully this update is a little more positive for everybody. It definitely was a much more positive week for me, even with all the normal life stuff. My air conditioning's been out for like a week and a half, and in Florida, it's not a way to live. We have a window unit out in the living room, that's why I'm like sweating right now, because I'm in the bedroom, which is all the way at the end of the house, and so I'm dying. It's like 78 degrees in here right now, I think. So yeah, it's pretty warm right now, and the rest of the house, it takes so long to cool it off, and then when it does actually cool off, it doesn't stay that way, and then I'm trying to give the little unit at least 2-hour break during the day when I can, but it's tough because it hits 90 degrees and then 94 when it peaks, and it's just like the sun's just in that perfect spot where we've got a shade tree there and a shade tree over here, and the sun's over here at this time of the year, so we're not even getting shade tree. And the worst part is it's just the inside blower that went out. But I bought this house, I think 6 years ago-ish. The unit was a year old when it was put in. They just replaced it before I bought the house. But the unit they bought was a model that was new. It was a new unit but of an older model. So they don't even make that blower anymore. So it's like the guy had to find one that he could make shift to work, which I normally do most of the house repairs around the house. I grew up as a, basically a handyman. And so it's not, it's not beyond me. I actually had diagnosed it to the point where I said, I think it's just the blower. Unfortunately, of course, if you don't know about air conditionings, with blower motors, there's usually like this, it's a little $10 part. I can't remember the name of it right now. Basically, all it does is store a bunch of energy and help the fan stay running and turn on and off. $10 part. Unfortunately, that unit, the part itself is inside the actual motor, so you can't replace. You have to replace the whole motor, and you can't find it anywhere. So it's just been one thing after another with life stuff, and then working on a few of the cars, busting up knuckles. It's been a while. I'm kind of used to that sort of stuff. Just having beat up hands and everything. But it's not been too bad. It is what it is. Sorry, I'm being very rude right now. So yeah, that's it. A little peep into next week, and then because I figure I should still be able to get one done. But if I don't, here we are talking about it. Excuse me. Yeah, so that's been this week. It rained, which means it poured for a couple weeks there. And then now we are back to business, and business is good. So that's probably the lesson for this week. This too shall pass. And it has. The low point has passed. I'm now in an upswing, at least in health. And then, which if you have your health, you've got everything. That's the most important thing. So, yeah. Have your health. And if you don't, then what's your excuse?